Pearson Writer really is a great solution for instructors who want to assign writing projects in their class, but they don't have time to devote to teaching the writing process. So this is a way for students to help guide themselves through that writing process. Within Pearson Writer, you're going to have a writer's guide and a writing review that is going to reinforce the structure of the writing process. The writer's guide is going to give them a way to refresh their memory of any of the writing rules that they may have forgotten from their initial writing classes. And then a writing review down here is going to allow them to check themselves through the writing process. So let's look at those. The writer's guide, you can browse with any of these topics, the research, and this is the research process. This is not necessarily getting to the sources. Grammar, so remind yourself of any grammar rules that you may have forgotten, and the same thing with the writing process. And then it's also broken down into disciplines. And within this, you can also search. So let's say that we're going to search for rules pertaining to MLA, because that's what our assignment is formatted in. So you can put in anything that you want to see here, and it's going to show you the different types of results. You have audio, video, and text, which are pretty self-explanatory. You can hear it, see it, or read it. But then we also have something called core concepts, which is going to reinforce what they're seeing here a little bit more. So it's going to first give them some frequently asked questions pertaining to MLA. Then it's going to give them an example of a paper that's written in MLA style so that they can see the formatting and what it may look like. And then my favorite down here is the quick check. So once they get through seeing the example and seeing the frequently asked questions, they're able to go in and answer a few true-false questions to kind of reinforce what they just saw. They can take this back to the writer's guide and look over in the disciplines and then apply that to maybe the discipline that they're writing for. So what are some rules that are specifically pertaining maybe to criminal justice or some of the cases that might be popular here? And if we see something that we like, you can always throw it into your favorites. So just add a little star, and then when you go back to the writer's guide, you can see things that maybe have helped you in the past, so you can go straight to those favorites. So this is just a way to reinforce what they already know, or maybe teach them something that they didn't know. With the writing review, this is a place where they can check their grammar, check their punctuation, check their style. So we can copy and paste any of the projects that you're working on. It's big enough that you can put in your entire project, or you can do chunks at a time. So let's input this project. I've just copied and pasted it from my essay, and then click check. And it's going to give us a visual over here of how well we're doing and give us some suggestions on some of the usage in the report or the essay. So it looks like over here I'm doing pretty well in everything but voice, so that's something that we would need to work on. And over here you can check and see what their examples may be, or you can ignore it if you think it's something that you really want to keep. So these two things again are helping with the writing process, so that whenever instructors are getting these projects, even getting the rough draft, that they have a better project to look at. Now we also have a way to help with the organization and the content of a project. So like I said, the writer's guide and the writing review are teaching the writing process. The My Projects and then the citing and finding of a source are going to help you with the content and the organization. So let's look at My Projects. With this, students can input their due date and milestones that they need to reach when creating one of their research papers or any other type of project that includes writing. So here let's look. To create a new project, you'll just give it a name. A lot of students name it by their course, but we can just name it research paper. You're going to input a due date. And what I like is to keep yourself on task, you can actually enter milestones. Now these can be personal milestones, or perhaps you have things due for your instructor. Maybe there's an outline due coming up, or maybe there's a rough draft due date. So all of these are going to be input into your project, and you can get email notifications to keep yourself on task, or if you're using the Pearson Writer app, you can get notifications that way. You'll just need to finish inputting all of your parameters, what style you're writing in, and it's going to keep you formatted in that style when you're building your bibliography, etc. And then you can save that project. Now immediately it's going to throw you over into the citation, so you can begin citing some of the sources that you already have, or you can go over to our Find a Source and start your research there. Now I'm going to jump back over to my projects for a second because I want you to see what that looks like. So we've created our research paper, and here it's going to give you 3 different little columns: your writing process, how far have you gotten on your planning, your researching, your writing and revising, and the way that that looks is checklist form. So let's say we've got this together, we do know what topic we're going to use, so we can go ahead and check that box. We know our audience, we've done some preliminary research, maybe we haven't started the writing process yet. So we've gotten the ideas together. So now when we go back to our research paper, it's going to show us that timeline and how far we've gotten in our process. With the green bar here. We also have our bibliography. Okay, so we haven't started it, so everything seems to need work. But let's jump up to a project I already have going. So you can see I've already started putting in sources here, so it's going to start changing the feedback. So my database usage is excellent, in fact, but I need to work on my credibility. The last thing over here is the notebook. So the notebook is going to be a way for them to organize their ideas. Maybe they found something out on the website that they like, so they can throw all of that in here. So let's look at that really quick. Maybe they're in your office and talking to an instructor about what they think the paper should look like, so they can actually create a new note. You can change the color. So maybe every time you have an instructor conversation, you can put it in one color, or if you have your own ideas, you can put it in another color. And one thing that is great is our note clipper. So the note clipper is something that you can use when you're outside of Pearson Writer. You take our Writer note clipper and you drag it up to your favorites bar, and then when you're out on a website, you can actually click on that and highlight a certain area that you want to save, and click it again, and it's going to make a note of everything that you've highlighted here. And you can add your own notes if you want. You can add that to your bibliography if you want to go ahead and start creating that. And then we click Add Note. And now we're going to go back over to our notebook. And our note's going to be here for our excessive force. So you've got a great organizational tool in Pearson Writer. Really quickly, let's look at Find a Source. Finding a source, this is our research database. It's powered by EBSCOhost, which is probably the most well-known research database. With this, we can search for any of the topics that we're using in our paper, and it's going to give you a way that you can print out or review however you like to any of these resources that pop up, and you can cite it directly from this as well. So again, I just wanted to jump in and show you what kind of information it's going to give you. It's going to give you a PDF of the full thing. You can also print it if you would rather do it that way. You can email it to yourself, save it. So there's lots of different options once you get the resource. And then my favorite is that you can click Cite Source from right from this page, and it's going to start throwing that into your bibliography. So let's add it to our CJ research paper. And you can see we now have a working bibliography down here. So once I go to write my paper, I can just copy and paste straight from Pearson Writer, and I know that it's formatted exactly how I set it up. So again, a great organizational tool, plus it reinforces the writing process, which is something that instructors don't often have time to do.